positive, and this is your gram-negative microorganisms and bacteria. Gram-negative, example are strep, staph, and your C. diff, the famous C. diff. I'll just say the most common. In here, we have your E. coli, which most commonly causes your UTI, okay, which is very common here. We have your ESBL. Lagay na natin dito ang Klebsiella. And what else? Pseudo. Yan, lagay natin sa Pilipinas ang common, Pseudomonas. Hatiin natin and discussing about your antibiotic ladder. Antibiotics. Yan, si antibiotics. Kaya hatiin natin siya. Okay, of course, we're talking about penicillin as your base. If you talk about penicillin, most commonly, amox, your amoxicillin, and what? Ampicillin. Your amoxicillin and your ampicillin. That's only good for what? Gram-negative. Diba pag mag-UTI tayo, bibigay ka ng amoxicillin, ampicillin. Pwedeng IV, pwedeng PO. So, if resistant ang pasyente, you can give what? Beta-lactamase in a form of what? Augmentin. The good thing about beta-lactamase is broad spectrum. It doesn't only cure your gram-negative but as well as your gram-positive. I'll put an arrow. Your beta-lactamase, your augmentin, your clavulanic acid. If the patient is not responding to that, you have your piperacillin. Sa Pilipinas, your tazocin sa Pilipinas, dito, sozin. Piperacillin, what's the good thing about sozin? Piperacillin is what? Gram-positive, gram-negative. That's why right away, binibigyan ng pasyente ng mga ganyang kaagad, piperacillin, because it's gram-negative, gram-positive, broad spectrum. Kung hindi pa rin, we have your carbapenems. Look at the gram-negative. You have E. coli, ESBL, which is very common, regardless if it's like urine or blood. A very common microorganism here, extended spectrum beta-lactamase. It's a common hospital-acquired infection. E. coli, saan yan? UTI. Klebsiella, pwedeng pneumonia. Pseudomonas, which is very common sa Pilipinas, pwedeng pneumonia, pwedeng elsewhere. Ang Pseudomonas, pwedeng sa wound, lahat. It's a contamination actually, acquired from a hospital. You can give, what? Beta-lactamase, piperacillin, sozin, pwedeng ibigay yun. If it's resistant to amoxicillin, ampicillin, give beta-lactamase and you can give piperacillin. You can give right away. Kung hindi pa rin responsive, then you can give carbapenem. Dito naman sa kabila, lagay natin dito yung methicillin. Though methicillin is not given anymore. Sa laboratory lang nakikita yon. Ang binibigay natin na methicillin is your doxycycline and your napcillin. Doxycycline and your napcillin. This is if the patient is what? Methicillin sensitive Staph aureus ng microorganism. If the patient has resistant like MRSA, so lagay natin dito MRSA, which is very common here. So ito, huwag niyong intindihin itong arrow na to ha. Itong arrow. It's just saying na it's broad spectrum from negative to gram-positive. Now, going back here, if it's methicillin resistant Staph aureus is what? Gram-positive. You can give what? Vancomycin. You can give vancomycin. That's why it's a drug of choice for MRSA. Go up, diba? Kasi resistant na siya eh. Ito is like, it's sensitive, so you can give ox, dox, napcillin. If the patient is resistant to vancomycin, like for example, BRE, vancomycin resistant enterococcus, ano ibibigay natin? That's the highest form, which is linezolid. We call it here a Cybox. If you are practicing in the floor, medical surgical floor, napaka-useful nito. In Saudi, you are using linezolid. Very rare. Pero dito, medyo madalas. Because ang mga microorganisms nito, mayroong matatapang din. What we commonly use here is the sozin because it's broad spectrum. Another thing is your vancomycin. We always use that because we have a lot of MRSA here in the US. Let's move on. Ang counterpart ng linezolid from a gram-negative is what? Your carbapenems. Linezolid is only for gram-positive. That's why I didn't put arrow on it. Vancomycin, it's only for gram-positive. I didn't put arrow. The good thing about piperacillin and your augmentin, better yung piperacillin talaga kasi mas mataas yung, though ang coverage is the same, but it's more effective than your beta-lactamase. So gram-positive and your gram-negative. Punta tayo sa cephalosporin, sa Ceph. Bigyan natin ang yellow, cephalosporin. It's still gram-positive, gram-negative. We have 1, we have 2, 3. First generation, second generation, fourth generation, and your fifth generation. May fifth generation na tayo. Ano yung example ng first generation? Cephazolin. Cephazolin and your cephalexin. Dito is Cephu. And your third generation, your Ceptri, which is very common here. You know why it's very common? Because the coverage is what? Both gram-negative and gram-positive. Look at 4. 4 is your cefepime, fourth generation. 4 is Ceptarolin. Look at Ceptarolin, fifth generation. Mataas na yan, which is also common here. Ceftriaxone is your Rosefin. It's a third generation given for gram-positive and gram-negative. Look at the coverage. I'll draw something like a line here. Right, ganito. Ito naman is, kung titingnan mo ang graph na to, this one, Kung bibigay mo ang first generation, second generation, it's more effective in your gram-positive and it becomes deteriorating on your gram-negative. The same thing as with your fifth generation and fourth generation. It becomes deteriorating from a gram-negative into what? Gram-positive. So a good thing about Cef-Tri is actually good for gram-negative and gram-positive. That's why ang pinaka-common binibigay dito is what? Your Sosin and your Cef-Tri.